All right, well, Flesh and Blood, Commoner Vodcast, episode 27.
Yep.
Almost said 26 again, despite us just talking about that. And definitely not recording this the day of a video title changing.
Has that video come out yet?
Yeah. That came out, I think, a couple of weeks ago, in fact.
Yeah, it probably did.
But episode 27, we're going to be back to building a new deck. Haven't quite gotten around to our battle royale of decks yet, but we're going to start off with building one of the new outsider heroes. In this case being Uzuri, because you definitely wanted this one the most, and I would say it's probably the most interesting one to build.
Yeah, I would think so.
I mean, the only one I lean to aside from Uzuri, not that there is that many heroes that even came out in Outsiders, but like Riptide, I'm tempted to build Riptide from the fact of I really do wonder if Dirtle Trap Hunter works, or Ranger works.
I feel like that would require a lot more thought.
I don't know if it would necessarily require a lot more thought. I think this one might have just as much because we have to figure out what we're putting in, what we're replacing the attacks with. But I think the Riptide deck will be worse.
Yeah.
Because I'm like thinking about the whole like, oh, you just like dirtle and you slowly trap them to death with your like block traps and all that. And then you play against a mage. And you die. Because they never attack you. And so you can't block with the traps. And so the whole thing comes tumbling down.
Well, I think there are some that are based on reaction and others that are... I don't remember if there's one that's mage that would affect mages. I don't remember.
I don't think there is. So you have to put like in enough attacks to, in theory, just shoot the mage to death. Which, I mean, could work. But I think this one is going to be the more rounded hero. And I think you can build a Riptide that is rounded. It's just not the kind of Riptide I would want to build.
Right.
It's not the most interesting Riptide.
It's kind of hard to build him in Commoner because the traps are very niche.
Oh, yeah. Yep. And they get better once you start getting out of Commoner, which
probably
obviously isn't going to be the case here. Which, didn't switch that over yet. Okay. Now we're in Commoner for this too. But I think Uzuri is just going to be a very well-rounded hero. I think Uzuri may actually be the best hero out of this set, but we'll have to see. But I think of all the new heroes, hers is the most interesting and the most potentially good. Which I guess comes with the whole like 8 lines of text in the description. Did I actually get that right? Oh, it's 7. That was an arbitrary number I picked. But yeah, so we're going to be building another assassin, which is, I think, coincidentally, the last time we built a deck on this podcast was also an assassin.
I mean...
Unless it was Bravo. It was Bravo or Arachne. One of the two. I feel like it was Arachne.
Did we build Bravo?
We did. We did.
I'm blanking it from my memory. So I'm going to say Arachne.
Okay. I feel like that is actually probably true. But yeah, so we're going to be building the new assassin Uzuri. Basic idea here is that you have a once per turn attack reaction where you can banish a card from your hand face down, and then you can turn the card banished this way face up, and if it's an attack action card with cost 2 or less, you can put target attacking card with stealth from the active chain link on the bottom of your owner's deck, and then put the banished card onto the active chain link as the attacking card, which sounds really complicated and convoluted, but it basically means you can swing with a stealth card, and then once per turn, you can switch that card with another 2 cost or less attack in your hand.
Yep.
And then when you switch it, instead of banishing the stealth card, it actually goes back into your deck, so you don't lose anything. But yeah, so that's basically the idea, and so the deck we're building, I assume, will be some variant of bunch of stealth cards, and then hit you with something much bigger.
Yep.
So that's the basic idea.
Well, there's 2 ways you could do it. You could do the hit big, or you could do the hit for effect.
Oh, yeah, like on hit effects. Yeah. Or some mix of the two.
Right.
I guess we could look at the hit big first, just to see what cards even fall in that category, like what the biggest damage damage dealers are. I have a feeling we will end up at the on-hit effects, but
Maybe. I mean,
for for starters, here's our references to go off of.
Yep.
There are none. So, generic, assassin, not class and generic. Interesting. Okay.
yeah, I don't know what that means.
Me neither. Common, and then it's got to be attack actions.
Yep.
So, can actually narrow that down quite a bit. I say quite a bit, and then I realize it's actually not that quite a bit.
Well, it probably has stuff that costs more than two.
There a way to... Oh, you're right. Oh, can I not do multiples for this?
No.
Okay, well, let's look at the big ones first, I guess. Oh, yeah, that does narrow it down quite a bit.
Yep.
So biggest damage, 6, 6, 6.
I think most of them are 6, unless they have...
Don't know how to disclude elemental on that.
That's weird. Maybe
Wait.
the not classified.
Oh, is that what not classed means? Yeah, seems to be. Okay, so 6, 5, 6, 6, 4, 6, 6, 5. That can be a 7 though.
Yep.
5, 6. 5, 6, 6, 6. Okay. So on the go big, just cursory glance, it's the same amount of damage as the on-hit effect. Most of the on-hit effects were also around
Yeah.
the 6.
So
like,
you'd probably
cut
wanna
down
go,
for size.
Yeah, with hit big with an on effect, essentially. On hit effect.
Yeah. I mean, Stony Wattenhog could work, because that will... You have a better chance of making that a 7
Right.
because of the whole non-equipment requirement.
And basically you can selectively play that one.
Yeah.
Like, if you have the option to, you would go for that one. Replace the stealth card, blocking a non-equipment
Interesting.
with Stony.
Yeah. You can kind of match it to what the situation is.
Mm-hmm.
Interesting thing, I was just double-checking there.
Sure, I wasn't paying attention.
No, yeah, you would have had to know what I was reading.
You don't know.
You replace the stealth card with the banish card.
Uh-huh.
So this is another way you can look at building her that probably isn't super relevant in Commoner, but I saw a couple of the cards here, I believe. And so this gets around Demolition Crew, for example.
It does, yep.
Around the alternate cost things that you need to do certain things to make it happen. Now, it also hurts things like Regurgitating Slug that now can't do their on-attack effect.
Yep.
But Demolition Crew is one thing that you can do that just gets around any of its negatives so long as you have a stealth card. So that's also an interesting way to think about it and go around it. Now, I'm curious if there's any, like, one cost that deal a ton of damage. This is obviously meant for what we're doing, essentially.
But it's kind of...
Yeah. It's kind of mediocre, though. Critical Strike. That was the one I was interested in.
Technically, a Flock of the Featherwalkers, its additional cost is negated.
That is true.
But it's still, only hits for 5.
Yes. And it won't have Go Again itself.
Nope.
But you do get around its restriction. That is true. Okay, and then I feel like there's not many zero costs we would be putting into play.
Now,
off of it.
Ravenous Rabble, that also gets around its cost. Because you're not playing it, it just comes on the field.
That might be true.
It is true. I remember seeing an example of the rules on Uzuri
Oh, really?
Yeah, before they
Did they
did the pre-release.
finally put out the whatchamacallit?
I don't know if they did that. It was like a little notice for before drafting.
What am I thinking of? Release notes. Outsiders. Okay, we do actually have release notes now too. That is good to know. Assassins may banish any card from your hand to pay for the activations. Have to be an attack action card. Oh. Yeah, meaning you could just banish cards from your hand for fun and not use them? Mm-hmm. I guess.
Or there might be cards where if it's in a certain field or something like that, I don't know. Or cards you can play from
So
banish.
my immediate reaction is to say there's not, and then I remember that we play Commoner. And so these rules are not for us per se to affect us, but there may be something that cares about that first line that doesn't exist in Commoner. Because the only thing I can think of in Commoner is Back Alley Break Line, which we already know does not work with Uzuri.
It's not. It's really funny.
You must have an attacking card with stealth on the active chain link to target this or to activate this, meaning you can't replace a previous attack, which makes sense because realistically speaking, if you replaced a previous attack, it wouldn't do anything, I think, and that just makes it easier to just not even have that situation. There's no priority between turning the banished card face up and putting the... Oh, yeah, meaning that the whole card resolves. So, like, I can't react to you flipping the card, but before you replace the attack. Which makes sense. In general. If the banished card is not an attack action card with cost 2 or less, it remains face up in the banished zone, and the attack on the active chain link remains there. Okay, sure.
Yep.
Remain on the active chain defending against the new one. Also makes sense. Effects that apply to the defending cards continue to apply to those defending cards when it replaces the stealth card. Effects that apply to the target card with stealth do not transfer to the card that replaces it. So I guess if you play a stealth card and then you Razor Reflex it,
right,
and then you replace it, the Razor Reflex goes away.
Pretty much. Or if it has if it has Go Again, like if the stealth card has Go Again, the next card does not get Go.
Does not get Go Again.
Unless you give it Go.
You know, I was thinking of the Razor Reflex as just like a throwaway example, but I realized that actually is kind of important because you could use that to try and give Razor Reflex effects to a 2-cost card.
Right.
Which normally it wouldn't be able to do. Okay, good to know that. If a layer on the stack targets the stealth card and the stealth card is put on the bottom of the card, the layer will either fail to resolve. Okay, is not considered to be played. Okay. And Ravenous Rabble is a play trigger.
Yep.
Because it doesn't strictly say that, but most things that would be there in phrase like that are play triggers.
Yeah.
So like Fervent Forerunner is not going to gain Go Again, although that's a terrible example because you have to banish it from your hand, not the arsenal. But like, okay, all right, that makes sense. Does that mean that no, because contract doesn't happen on play; it's just an effect. Okay. Okay. Now, Frontline Scout, you wouldn't get to look at their hand, I think.
Maybe.
Because I assume that that's the same thing as Ravenous Rabble, that's a play trigger.
Yeah, I'm not sure.
I would say that is likely.
I could see it.
Likely the case. Well, I forgot their stealth with Dominate. That is pretty brilliant. Okay. And then, yeah. Alright, so the highest damage we're doing is 6. Off of, like, any of these cards.
Yeah.
Okay.
Unless they get boosted by themselves.
Well, yes, that's true.
Or we boost them.
So, how do we want to do this? In theory, we want every one of our hands to have a stealth card in it and a card to replace the stealth card with.
Right.
So that means we want at least 10 of each.
Okay.
I have a feeling we can go higher on stealth. than we can on the other thing. Because I think there's a lot of stealth cards that are also just good.
Yeah.
And then maybe we do want to aim probably on the lower side for like the replacement effects. Like maybe we want to go a little bit over 10, but probably not a ton more, because you don't want a hand that's like all 2 costs, right?
Right, unless... I mean, you could color curve it.
You could,
Just
in a
in
way that you
case.
could pay for it,
Mm-hmm.
but I feel like we want a lot of red cards. And especially, I feel like the 2 costs, we want them to mostly be red cards.
Mm-hmm.
Just for, like, maximum damage. Whereas stealth, I think we can get away with a lot. If I do type stealth here, is it going to give me all the stealth cards?
Yep.
Oh, it is. Because, like, all of these stealth cards are pretty good. We probably don't care about Razor's Edge, I feel like. I mean, we could put some number in, but
you could put them in if you want to be more, like, calculative, where, like,
yeah.
you make them think you're going to switch out your stealth for a big hitter.
And then you just hit them really hard.
You just boost it.
I mean, like, because you could save it for, like, the infect turn,
Mm-hmm.
where you're going to get, like, blood rot pox. Like, but I feel like you probably don't want to do more than just, like, the red at that point, if that's the route you're going to go. If anything, I actually think what we would want more of is the attack boost for 2 cost cards, like Pummel. Because Pummel has some gross on-hit effects for 2 cost cards.
Yeah.
That's the discard a card if it hits.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I think we want Pummel. I think this is going to be a Pummel deck. Okay, so just raw gut feeling here. I feel like we want something close to 20 stealth cards, 10 payoffs, and then 10 is our filler slots for things like pump effects and stuff like that.
Razor Reflex, maybe.
Well, probably Pummel.
Oh, that's true.
I would probably do Pummel over
Uh,
because if we're going to be boosting the stealth cards, I think we just do like a couple of Razor Edges and just call it. Unless we want to do like 2 Razor's Edge red and 2 Razor Reflex red.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I guess that's true. It does give go again. But how often are we going to be chaining a bunch together? That's
You
the
never
real
know.
question. I mean, if we're doing 20 stealth, it is slightly higher.
You know, your first... It's just your first stealth that goes off, and then what do you do after that? Would you just want that to be your turn?
Well, I mean, you do the stealth and then you swap it with some big heavy hitter and then you...
Have to give it
And
go
I mean,
again.
like, you can use your weapons, too. Because there's a real possibility that we are spider spiting and then going from there. Because that has go again.
Mm-hmm.
We didn't get a new weapon, right?
No, I think all the new weapons are,
Yep.
majestic.
I think we are probably on the single spider's bite, though. I think unironically we are actually
Yeah.
spider's bite.
Spider's Bite and
in the Ornate Destin.
no, I was gonna say the Arcane Lantern.
Were they both rares?
Yeah,
Oh, that's unfortunate.
at least I think.
I think you are right. Okay, we'll come back to that. We'll start with building the deck first, and then we'll come back to that. But I think we are a single Spider's Bite. I don't think we want to build the deck in a way that we are reliably doing double Spider's Bite into attack, because it costs 2. So that's expensive.
Yes.
All right. So if we're aiming for like 20 stealth, let's start with the red cards. I think we probably want all the red cards, right?
Mm-hmm.
Malign. Yeah, sure. Prowl. Yeah. I mean, Prowl's probably the one we care the least about. If we're
Yeah.
not, unless we do end up putting in Razor Reflexes, which we might. State and Wither. Okay, so yeah, shut up. What are you even doing here? Okay, whatever, fixed. Problem solved. So we're already at 12 stealth cards.
Yep.
Just doing the reds.
Just doing the red.
So I feel like we are going to have to like cut certain stealth cards then, because like some of these effects are really really good. I'm trying to remember what was the. So like isolate is probably one of our best ones.
Yeah.
Like we probably want.
Because that basically locks
them
into blocking only with one card.
Yeah. So I guess we probably do the full package of isolate.
Yep.
And then I feel like infect is a really good one, just from like a.
It'll force them to block.
Yeah, these are the cards like if they don't block it, if they try to like next level you and be like, well, I'm just not going to block then. You're like, okay, blood rat box, take extra damage. Which I guess the blue, like instead of doing the full package, doing red and blue is kind of good because like the blue one they might underblock.
Right.
So I think that's good. Do we cut the prowl then? Because we're at 18 already here.
Yeah, I feel like prowl is the easiest.
Yeah, if we're not going to be going that route, I feel like prowl and then maybe malign are the two easiest.
Yeah.
But let's see. So we can add the blue of the others now, like blue sedate and blue wither. And then we have 20 over there.
That works.
Yeah, I mean, I think that fits. The only thing is we could drop like red malign if we wanted to do a yellow of something else, but I feel like we probably don't. I feel like we're fine with that.
Stealth-wise, currently.
Yeah, because I feel like the higher damage malign is probably better than a lower damage sedate or infect. I mean, infect's probably the one I'd be most likely to go, but I think isolate's the only one that's like we definitely need the yellow, and it's just because the dominate effect is so good for what the deck's trying to do.
Yep.
Well, then that's our stealth package for now, anyways. So then, do we do payoffs next? It's probably the easiest, right?
Yeah, I think so.
Or it's not the easiest, but the other like 10 flex slots are easier to figure out once we know what our payoffs are.
We have to figure out the big hitters before we can figure out how we want to affect them.
Yeah. And then I can do perfect. That did not do anything, actually.
You,
Card cost 2? Okay, that worked. Interesting. So if you click search, that ruins it. That makes no sense, but now that I know that, that works. That's not awful. I didn't even notice what the boost was on that.
the +3.
And they may be more likely to block it if they knew ahead of time.
But I mean, how would they know ahead of time?
Yeah, they wouldn't with this. The downside with this is that it's only really good when
you're lower than
lower than them. But I mean,
which
like,
will never happen. We'll never let it happen.
just like swapping this for like an isolate and reading it as like a 7-power dominate card, that sounds gross. All right, maybe. I think maybe
It's a maybe.
if we go to 12 payoffs, I could see this being payoff 11 and 12. Brothers in Arm is the one that can block extra. Not super tempting, but it is high damage. And it's probably better than doing like Brutal Assault.
Yeah,
So,
because that has no effect.
um,
So that's an on-hit, which is good.
it is.
And it brings a non-attack action.
That's where the problem comes
Well,
in.
I mean, it depends on
Right now we
what
don't
our
have
non-attack
any.
actions are.
Yeah, because it can't grab reactions.
Right.
So if all that 10 flex slots ends up being like pummels and razor reflexes, like those kind of effects, this will do nothing.
I can see some cards that would go good with this, though.
I'm trying to think. So you lose the effects, right? So if I cast Warmonger's Recital and then a stealth card, and then I replace the stealth card, the Warmonger's goes away, doesn't it?
I forget what Warmongers even does.
That's the +3 to your next attack.
Oh.
I think that goes away.
I think it does go away, yeah.
So that's the problem I see with this, is that unless there's like some weird non-attack action card that does something.
I was thinking of the one that gives action points when you play
Oh.
Yeah, I can't remember the name.
Oh, lead the charge.
Yes, that's it.
Yeah, if we go that route instead of Razor Reflex, that could work.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. All right. You have me convinced enough. I'll put in the 2. Because I mean, it's only 2 cards that will need the lead the charges to have happened already, and I think there's a possibility we have a number of lead the charges. The biggest problem I see is that like the red one is the only one that's obviously good, because all the stealth cards
are 0 cost. And
lead the charge does work, because lead the charge gives you the action point once you play the card, and it's not an effect tied to it. Okay. I think that can be good, and I think you and I are both probably agreeing that this is a good card.
That's pretty good, yeah.
I mean, like, it might do nothing, but if it does nothing, it's 6 damage, which puts it at the top end already, and it kind of forces them to block the entire game because you could have cut down the size. Do we like Demolition Crew? Oh, not really.
Because
it doesn't do anything at that point. They've already blocked.
Yeah.
They've already blocked. That was such a cool interaction of getting around the alternate cost. But it is... I mean, like, we might use it if the 6 damage ends up being enough. But I think we will have enough payoffs without that.
So this one's 5 damage, but it gives you a Ponder token, which allows you to draw, right?
I don't hate that. It's at the beginning of your end phase.
Yes.
So it basically lets you dump your whole hand and still get to arsenal something.
Yep.
But if you didn't dump your whole hand, it's not going to do a ton. I think emptying your hand's actually not super unlikely if you're going to be using the dagger first. Because we are very red heavy, and I think we are going to end up very red heavy in the end.
Yeah, I would.
I mean, like, we're at like 8 blue. I think we're going to get a little more blue, because I do think we're going to run like 4 to 6 pummels.
Do you think we should run more yellows as well, just to pay for the spider's bite?
I don't think we need to worry about it as much.
Okay. Or in case we need to pay for any of the 2 costs?
Because like, if you have 4 red cards in your hand, as long as one of them is a stealth card, you can pitch 2 to Spider's Bite, and then play the stealth card, which all of them cost 0, and then you can replace it with the last red card.
Okay.
So I think while the cost looks weird, because of the fact that it's like all cost 0 or cost 2s that we're cheating in, like, it should be fine. And with 20 stealth cards, your odds are 2 in every hand. So, like, the number of hands that don't have a stealth card should be extremely low.
Right.
Knowing full well that the first time we play this deck, we are going to get a hand that has no stealth cards. It's going to be all 2, all 2 costs.
I feel like that's happened to me before, too. With a different deck.
It happened to me with Icelander. That is the first thing that comes to mind with that, is that there was like 8 to 10 red cards, and I had an all red card hand once, and I was like, okay, well, I guess I'll just die then.
And then you proceeded to.
And then I proceeded to die. Yeah, correct. But yeah, I feel like Destructive Deliberation, because like that would be good in that example we just gave.
Yes.
Like the all red card one, that would be good, because now you get a card back to Arsenal.
We'll keep it in Deliberation.
Yeah, we'll put it in for now, and it'll be the first thing to cut if we have to cut anything, like Prowl, like Prowl was. I don't think we are doing the Moonwish Sunkiss combo.
Well, first off, I don't think any of this works anyways. It would just be...
Well, I mean, it would tutor out Sunkiss.
The on-hit effect works, but the...
Well, I mean, you're making it even cheaper than the other two
I guess that wouldn't matter anyway, since you're putting it out.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, so all it would do is just hit, and then you can tutor out Sunkiss.
Mm-hmm.
And Sunkiss is 0-cost non-attack action card that gives you health. And if you've played another action card this turn, it has Go Again, I believe, is how it works. Since we can't give Moonwish Go Again, in theory.
That's what the lead the charge is for.
Well, I mean, that's true. That's true. I just don't think it will do much for us in the end.
How'd this get in there?
Because it's just off cost too, I realize.
Oh.
And then, just since we talked about it, I think there is a real chance we're putting a lot of pummels in. That's +4, and if it hits, they discard a card. This is just like everything we want our deck to be doing. The problem is the cost.
Yeah,
that is the problem.
We would have to pay.
Yes,
for it.
That one will be much harder to pay for. But like, if we so maybe we stick with just like 4, and that way we have like the red and the blue, or even we don't even do the red. We do like the yellow and the blue, so that they can pay for themselves. But we'll get to that. I don't think we're going to do Rally the Rearguard. I think in general, I would prefer Brothers in Arms over this. Because I think I like to pay 1 rather than the discard. Although Brothers in Arms does block 1 less. It's 2 and 2 rather than 2 and 3. So I feel like if we are going to put 1 in, it will probably be Brothers.
Was Brothers in Arms on play or?
No. Wait. No, well, because it's on block, I think. So, like, cheating it in doesn't...
Yeah. Yep. Okay.
Don't think we're doing Regurgitating Slog as much as I would love to. That's not going to be super beneficial for us.
It could.
For what?
It could be.
What do we...
It would allow you to play a Lead the Charge as an instant instead of having to do it at the beginning of your turn.
The manic look on your face as you're selling this to me, while I sit here knowing full well that what Lead the Charge does is say when you play your next action card, it gives you action point, which means if you play as an instant, it won't actually do anything until you play the next card. I mean, it does have Go Again on it, right? So would instant and then give you back the action, and then if you did something, I guess, kind of.
It's wacky, but it works.
God, that's such a narrow corner example.
So you play a stealth card, you switch out for this, you hit with this, you play a Lead the Charge, you play another stealth card, you get an action point from that, and you get to play something else. Another stealth card, maybe. Bam.
So yes, but the example you're using there, why not just play the Lead the Charge? And then do all the stuff?
Because they won't
play it after
they
the
won't see it coming.
I guess they think this is your only attack, and so then it gives you a second one. You could do that. The only other thing that I could see it being good for is getting more Lead the Charges into the deck. Because the stealth cards all cost 0, which means the red Lead the Charge is the only thing that works. And Rifting would allow you to gain 1 action point off of a yellow or a blue. Because it has Go Again on it. And so if you play as an instant, it will give you an action point back. So even if you don't trigger the second part of it, it will give you back an action, allowing you to attack again. How often do we expect to have both in our hands at the same time? And be able to do something with it.
Every single time.
This is where I'm more concerned with it. It's like how many cards... So we need to play a stealth card, switch it for Rifting, have Rifting hit, which then allows us to play the Lead the Charge in our hands. So that's 3 cards. Then we need a stealth card and a payoff. So it's a 5-card no weapon attack turn. Which happens. That happens. We can build around that idea. Is it worth it? Is it worth it for having 2 extra Lead the Charges in the deck that won't do anything outside of that interaction? and little misleading, because you can always Lead the Charge, like blue Lead the Charge, then play like a Rifting raw, and that will give you the action point back. So it's if we're ever casting one of our 2 cost cards, just straight up, it'll do something. I'll put it there. We'll see. We will see how we feel further down the road. I think this one is just a good one.
Yeah, that's.
I think that's just because like this is the best 6-power one we could put in because it's 6-power with a potential for 7. That I think is going to be fairly easy to hit because you can wait until you see that they have blocked with only 1 card and be like, aha, one hog, 1 extra damage. But 7 damage is like that's not a subtle amount. I mean, Surging Militia is kind of the counterpoint. The biggest problem I see here is how useful is that? It's just +1 for every non-equipment card blocking it.
Right.
So, like, if they block with, like, 2, then this will hit for 1 over the 2. I mean, that's not awful. That's not terrible, per se, but is it good? I mean, it's more likely to hit than a 6-power.
Right.
Because of the fact that
if they double block, it gets +2, so it would be 7. It would be 1 over.
Okay. All right. You know what? We've never used this card. Let's throw it in. I think I would prefer copies of Surging Militia over Brutal Assault, even though it blocks for less.
Right. If they block 3, then it does nothing.
Yeah. Well, so if they block with 1 card for 3, this will hit the same amount as Brutal Assault. Because you'll get that +1, which will bring it up to 6.
Mm-hmm.
So I think the chances that this hits for 5 as opposed to a 6 power card are less likely than the amount of times this will hit for 7 when the other one would hit nothing, essentially.
They're more
chip the damage in.
They're more likely to block because of the effects of the stealth cards.
Yes. Or I think there's just a chance that like playing Uzuri is going to be like playing Dorinthia, where they just throw like 2-3 cards in front of all of your attacks just in case, and this is a way for you to still push a little bit of damage through. And once you combine it with things like Pummel too, like it'll get even higher.
Mm-hmm.
Because I mean, if you add a yellow Pummel to this, now it's 10. So even if they blocked with 3, you still force 1 damage through and make them discard that last card. Okay, yeah. I think it's a good fit. I think it's a good fit. Power greater than its base.
I don't know. Well, I guess you'd have to pitch, but why would you pitch your red cards?
That's where the trouble comes in. I am very torn on this right now. Because this is a great way to get go again by cheating this in. And if you've pitched any of your cards there. But the problem is the stealth cards all cost 0. So you had to find a way to pitch a card before this. Which means probably Spider's Bite. And if you're Spider's Biting, how likely are you to be able to use the go again?
Right.
I mean, so if we have 5 cards, we have 2 payoff cards, 2 stealth cards, and some other red card. We can Spider's Bite, stealth card, replace it with Zealous Belting, and then stealth card again.
Okay.
Is that worth it? I feel like this one is one where it's much more likely to be a 5-power attack that doesn't have go again than Surging Militia had to be a 5-power attack.
Yeah.
But is it still worth it? How often can we make that happen?
It's very selective, I feel like.
We need 2 stealth cards. That seems doable.
Mm-hmm.
Most hands should have that. Red, we're currently at 22 cards, so that means we should also have 2 red cards in every hand. I think... Alright. I think we can try it. How many payoffs are we at right now? We're at 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14. Okay, so we are going to have to be cutting some.
Now, another thing to take in consideration are the contract cards. They hit for a maximum of 5, but they also banish a card.
From the opponent's deck.
Yes.
If we want to just throw in contract cards to be like good cards that are in there. I did think about that. So we're going to want to cut at least 2 payoffs, though, with where we're at right now. So we didn't even put Adrenaline Rush in.
Yep. Or the Deliberation.
No, we did.
We did?
That one's in.
Oh, I thought we kept it under Deliberation.
Okay. Okay. Here's the position that I'm in here. Zealous Belting and Rifting have both very, very questionable uses that could work, but are very questionable. Cadaverous Contraband has a use that is very straightforward and will work in every version of this deck, but it's also very narrow. Like, what are the odds that we've played the red, lead the charge before we Cadaverous Contraband? So, like, those are the 3 that are the most obvious to cut. And then the next question is Adrenaline Rush better than one of those? For the chance at 7 damage. But the downside of 4.
Right.
If you are beating them up faster than they are beating you up.
Which is what you always hope.
Yeah, it is kind of like... This isn't a Kano or an Icelander where you're down to begin with, or Arachne where you're down to begin with, and so you can play around that a bit more. So if we're gonna cut one of the other ones, what is the best one to cut? I mean, Zealous Belting is the easier go again to pull off than Rifting, but Rifting has the floor of just being a 6 damage attack, which this has the floor of just being a 5 damage attack. But I do think that this is going to give us a second attack more often than the other.
Than the Rifting.
Than the Rifting will. And I think we don't want to be above 12 payoffs. But I think 12 payoffs increases our odds of having one in every hand. Because we're at how many cards right now? 34? So we only have 6 slots? That is not a lot.
Right, and if you think of it that way, if you just put in non-attack actions that Rifting could hit, it even... Then it would be very highly unlikely.
All right. you got me there. Yep.
I like how I sold Rifting and then sold you to get rid of it.
And you sold it down the river. Yeah. Okay, so we need to
I'm a
reset.
very good salesman.
Reset, and then can I reset? Is it not letting me reset? Hang on. Card costs. Why are we... Okay, whatever, that worked. That worked, we'll take it. Okay, so things... We have 8 cards to go. So I think we've basically established that we are doing lead the charge. The red. Because the red is 0 or greater. So that'll hit all the stealth cards. Whereas the rest of these will not. And if we're not using Rifting, then I don't think it's worth including these for the off chance that we do like a double 2 cost attack.
Right.
I think Razor Reflex will give us more positive turns than that. So then Pummel. Do we want yellow-blue or do we want red-blue?
I mean, +4, +3.
Yeah. I mean, 4 is a relevant number in the sense that it gets you 1 pass blocking, but...
I feel like if you're gonna
we
pay,
definitely want the 2 though.
Yeah, if you're gonna pay 2 for a card, you probably want the better effect, right?
I mean, yes.
Or are you thinking of it more in the utility?
I'm thinking of it on the cost side now. Is that our cost curve is rough. Like, it's going to be hard to pay for Pummel without a blue or a yellow in hand. Which we have them. We do have plenty of, like, we have 10 blues now with the blue Pummels. So, like, there is in theory 1 in every hand.
It does feel bad to get rid of one of those stealth cards for that, though.
Okay. Yeah, let's do yellow pummel, because then we can always pummel to pay for pummel. And I think just because of how bad our color curve is here, that's going to actually be useful. And then that leaves us with one last slot, which we could do Razor Reflex. Do we want Razor Reflex? I mean, I can give all of our stealth cards go again and +3 damage.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that doesn't seem awful. And if we do that, do we want the red?
Guess so.
I mean, like, it's
though
tempting to
that's
do
counter
blue,
to the
but
point that we just had.
yeah,
earlier.
but this one at least a red card can pay for it,
Mm-hmm.
whereas like the pummels need 2 red cards to pay for them. So that's why it's like, and now we're at the point that we have 12 cards that are no, we have 14 cards that pitch for 2 or more. So that's 14 cards that can pay for a pummel. So there's that. Whereas like Razor Reflex, every card can pay for it in theory. And then if we do that, then we're done. And no contract cards. Which kind of sucks, but at the same time, it's kind of the way that Uzuri is.
Right. Also, no Ravenous Rabble.
Yes.
The 5 power go again. With no downside.
That is a very interesting point you bring up there.
Mm-hmm.
Why did I put Zealous Belting in? Same card but better.
Yep.
Same card but better.
And it can be played by itself.
With 26 red cards in the deck.
Mm-hmm.
And only 1 in 4 chances of doing minimum damage, which is still going to be 2 with Go Again. Yeah, no, yeah. Never even thought about Zealous Belting. Wasn't even a consideration. Definitely. Knew all along it was going to be Ravenous Rebel.
Of course.
I think that's probably good too. I think we don't really want to try and force in the yellow or the blue. Just because while they are good, like it's kind of low damage at that point to be flipping it in. All right. Well, there we go. We have the list, and now it's just equipment. So
did we put in Razor's Edge?
Razor's Reflex. I put Razor's, no.
Okay.
Because there's only 2 slots left, and so I did Razor Reflex over Razor's Edge.
Okay.
I think it's probably worth it.
Because it hits more things?
Because it hits more things, and it gives Go Again.
True.
So, like, it hits all of the stealth cards, like Razor's Edge does, and both of them do +3. Mm-hmm. But in Razor's Edge case, it costs 0, but in this case, it gives Go Again. And I think the Go Again is worth more. And then it does hit more, too. Yeah. Because it does the daggers, and it does Ravenous Rabble.
Okay.
So. And then 4 pummels for the 12 payoffs, which I think is probably fair.
Rave.
It's like, why is that the only things that are listed? All right, so equipment. We have assassin equipment now. Your daggers gain +1 this turn. It costs 2?
Yep.
That's so rude. What? So you pay 4?
Uh-huh. You pay 4 to do 2 with... what does it do again?
Piercing 1.
Right.
And if it hits, the next time they defend with 1 or more attack action cards this turn, they have -1 while defending. Yeah. I mean...
It's rough.
Oh. We may run Blade Cuff just because all the other options suck. Okay, so Bracers of Belief does nothing for us. Well, actually, not nothing. Goliath Gauntlet does nothing for us, because ideally we never want to be playing 2-cost card.
Right. Oh, I didn't even think of that.
Yeah, I was thinking this would be great, but it is a play effect, and this is where it kind of hurts us.
Mm-hmm.
This is the catch-22 on that one. Oh, I didn't see these. Oh, I made fun of this card a lot, didn't I, actually?
I think so.
Because it was paying 2 for Cracker Jack's effects just to make it a reaction, but that actually is something that is a consideration when it comes to Uzuri, because you can use it to pump the card you cheat in. That said, I'm not wholly convinced. So, for gloves, just gloves, starting with that to make it easier on us.
What's Stubby Hammers do again?
Yeah, yep, correct. That's the one that... So, this has an obvious benefit. This affects all of our stealth cards. So if we have a turn in which our intention is to just hit them with a bunch of stealth cards, this is great.
But they will see it coming.
Yes. And it does kind of tell them that we're not cheating in cards. Which that can lure them into a false sense of security, right. Correct.
Which would kind of be a waste, but...
Yeah, it would kind of be a waste of the Stubby Hammers. Mm-hmm. But in theory, you crack Stubby Hammers and you're like, okay, no blocks, I stealth hit them. Mm-hmm. If they do block, then I cheat in the other card, and then I still hit them with a stealth card on the end. Or like, so I crack the Stubby Hammers and my plan is stealth. If they block the stealth cards, then, whatever, I just do more damage with the stealth cards. If they don't block, I still cheat in a card, and then I follow it up with another stealth card that will have the bonus. Mm-hmm. So I think the decision point here is between Stubby Hammers and probably Blade Cuff, with a slight aside towards Fisticuffs. Paying 2 to give +1 an attack reaction does kind of suck, but the beauty is that can be used on stealth cards and also on the payoffs. Mm-hmm. But it's Blade Cuff has Blade Break. That's why it gets a nudge.
That is true. It's only target card, though, right? Because it's an attack reaction? Whereas Stubby Hammers affects all...
Yeah, it affects multiple ones, whereas this will only boost one. So Stubby Hammers has the higher upside of possibly doing 2 or more in a turn if we can do a bunch of stealth chain.
Oh, it doesn't have...
It doesn't block either. No. Blade Cuff does. That's the dagger one.
Right.
Okay. Stubby Hammers is our greed pick. Mm-hmm. But if we need to bring in more armor, we bring in Blade Cuff.
Okay.
I think that makes sense.
I could see that.
I think there's even a world in which, in theory, you have Stubby Hammers boost more than 2 cards. Because stealth cards all cost 0. Mm-hmm. So, in theory, you can crack this, and if you have, Lead the Charge, Razor Reflex, and a bunch of stealth cards, you can just go absolutely ham on it. So, and it will boost all of them. This affects every single stealth card in the deck. Every one.
You overblock my blood pox? Okay. Well, here's my next one.
Yeah. So I think Stubby Hammers does have a really high upside, but I do think Blade Cuff, you might bring it in if you anticipate blocking, and this just blocks for free. And still has the potential upside that if you have a turn in which it will kill them, you can do that. So I think we do that. Masks. There was one that was good, wasn't it?
I think that was the ninja one.
Put your hand or arsenal on bottom of your deck. Destroy that. Reveal cards from the top. Put in your hand and shuffle. I actually really like this. I forgot these have Blade Break too. That boosts them. So first one, malicious manifestations. The idea here is we get a hand, no payoffs. we can crack this to go digging for it.
Well,
The problem is it will reveal to them what we have found.
yes.
And so they know roughly what's coming. But, I mean, if we have...
Well, you
I mean,
you
like...
have to shuffle.
For the what?
You have to shuffle afterwards, after you find the attack action card.
Well, yeah, but I mean, you don't necessarily care about that at that point. This is you're getting rid of a card from your hand to go digging for a payoff.
Right.
And hoping to find one.
Oh,
and you might not hit a payoff.
You
but...
just mean it'll show your payoff to them.
Yes.
Okay.
So they'll know it. But, you know, that might mean nothing. Because if you have Isolate and you're going to replace it with a Stony Wattenhog, for example, if they see the Stony Wattenhog, sucks to suck. You're still going to play a Dominate card and then bring it in, and it's going to do the 7 damage. What are you going to do about it? So I think that one has some very obvious uses, and at the same time, too, it has Blade Break, so that kind of puts it above, like, a Hope Merchants or, like, the classic generic hats.
Right.
Because our worst case scenario, we're blocking with this and just taking 1 less damage. This one, whenever a dagger hits this turn, you can put a card from your hand on the bottom of your deck, and if you do, draw a card. Okay. All right, and then there's our headpiece. No, to be fair, that's not terrible. Shifting Perspectives is not terrible, because there's going to be some turns you Spider's Bite,
Right.
and this can help you fix what's left in your hand, but I think the other one is useful far more often. This doesn't cost anything, though.
That's true.
It's free. But you also have to cycle a card from your hand too, so it's like you're not even +1. So I think this mask is the one that's going to be the most useful. Like, just in general, I think this will benefit us greater in the long run. I do think this is also probably a slot that's easy to bring in Arcane. I think Null Rune Hood is definitely something, like, this is an effect you would definitely replace with Arcane.
Right.
When we get to, like, the sideboarding side of things. Right, I forgot. I hate the way that equipment is done on this. Card cost doesn't need to be anything. Equipment, common. Yeah, there's just not a way to do only chess pieces, huh? This might work, actually. Nope. Not if I spell it wrong. Okay. All right. Perfect. This works. We have a full list of the generic chess piece. Vest of the First Fist. That's easy to do.
Yeah.
In theory. In theory, that should be easy. Like, our deck is built around that same kind of logic of making things hit because they didn't expect it. How often will we need the 2 on the back end? I don't know, but not awful. Deep Blue's not bad either, because it lets us turn a red card into a blue card, essentially.
Right.
Which could be good for the pummel turns. Like, I could definitely see that being good. The Red Bear I don't think is super good for us. Silken G's not awful, but I don't think we necessarily want that. And then Threadbare, I don't know what that would do for us. And Blossom of Spring has some obvious bonuses, but...
Mm-hmm.
Okay. I think I know what options I like here.
Is it Quelling Robe?
Surprisingly, no. So I think Vest of the First Fist is good, but I think the number of times that we're going to want 2 action points after we've hit are very low.
Okay.
We kind of want it towards the front. So there's 2 things that really stick out to me. Because, Blossom of Spring is another good generic one because it can give us 1 ahead of time. But most of our things cost 0 or 2.
Mm-hmm.
Or everything does. Well, no, Razor Reflex costs 1. So, all this would do is make some things cheaper. So you could do this to make the dagger cost 1.
Right.
Essentially. What I think you're going to get more advantage out of the long run is either Deep Blue to turn one of our red cards into a blue card, or Heart and Cross Straps. Because that will pay off in the hand where we get 4 payoff cards and nothing else. By making that free.
You mean if we have just the big hitters?
Yeah, the big hitters with no way to cheat them in.
Okay.
Or if we want to just do stealth card, they don't block, and then we just all right, we'll hit you for Blood Rot Pox, and then we'll crack the Hardened Cross Straps and get the 2 costs in anyways. So I think those 2 are probably the best. And in theory, Deep Blue is the one that's going to be useful more often, I think. That's just my thoughts.
Yeah.
I think this is also probably a slot that's easy to replace. So maybe this is where we come back to for Ironhide / Null Rune. But I do think Deep Blue is probably our best bet.
Okay.
So we have gloves, we have hats. So now we just need boots.
I think it literally
legs.
took the...
That's what the slot is. All right. Got it. But I'll go over here real quick and throw the Deep Blue in, just so I don't forget. Okay. I have thoughts coming into this one, but I have to actually look at this to see if I do feel that way. Because I think I know which one is better here.
It's the Mage Master boots.
Not really what I had in mind, but
really
would have been funny though. Yeah, I think there really is just one boot here, right?
I kind of like the Fleetfoot sandals.
Really? With 1 or less base power.
That would be like if we have to play one of our blue stealth cards
that have the 1 or less power, that we can give them go again to do more stealth cards.
It is a little too narrow of a effect, but I mean, I still kind of like it.
Okay.
But go on.
Well, no, I wanted to let you finish your point, and then I want to ask you, what point does the Fleetfoot sandals benefit us that a Snapdragon Scalers wouldn't?
That's true. I still kind of like
when Snapdragon Scalers will do all of those same blue cards, but then also their red counterparts too.
I feel like we had this conversation, and this was about how this set was made for drafting.
Yes. The Fleetfoot Sandals are they're good in draft, but outside of draft, Snapdragon Scalers will just work in all of those same instances and more.
Yeah.
And I think that really is just the answer here. I don't think we're super likely to pay for time skippers. And if we did, I think we still could get away with the same thing with Snapdragon.
We use our Deep Blue to pay for our time skippers.
So jokes aside, that sounds awful and miserable. There actually is a situation in which that's not terrible, and that would be better than Snapdragon Scalers. Okay. And it's when we're going stealth card, replace with a payoff, stealth card, replace with a payoff.
Well,
Snapdragons won't give us go again there.
You can't do it twice per turn, though.
Oh, that's true.
Yeah.
That's true. But, okay, never mind. Time skipper's garbage then. So my thought with that is, you can't Snapdragon
be amazing
the stealth card and then replace it, because it'll lose that go again. But then that just means you lead with the stealth card that you're going to Snapdragon, and then you go with another stealth card. So you just have to frame your turn in a way that works. So, but yeah, so Snapdragon I think is just the obvious answer.
Usually always is.
Yeah, yeah, that is true. Okay, so right now we're at 6, and we have 5 more slots.
Right.
Because we don't have our offhand yet. I've intentionally been leaving that towards last here, because the question is, would we rather have Ornate Tessin, which will benefit us in every single matchup, by just letting us do this whole try to dig for a finisher thing,
right?
For costing 1, or would we rather have Arcane Lantern, which then means once we hit a mage, we don't have to sideboard out as many equipment pieces. So, with what we have here, what are the worst pieces? So we have Deep Blue, Mask of Malicious Manifestation, Snapdragon, and Stubby Hammers. I feel like the easiest replacements, just gut feeling right off the bat, are hat and gloves.
I could see that.
Because I think Snapdragon is going to be a big part of our multi-attack turns.
Mm-hmm.
Of getting, like, more than one stealth card through. And then Deep Blue, I think, fixes a lot of our problems. I think Deep Blue makes Pummel a lot more pull-offable. And so I think if we go one further, I think Deep Blue is actually our most important piece.
Really?
I don't know. I feel like it fixes some issues. Like, it gives us a chance to play the 2-cost cards. It lets us do the dagger first. It lets us do pummel. Like, it lets us do so many things that are very greedy resource based this time.
Right. If we get a broken hand, we can fix it with that.
Yes, with Deep Blue. It's kind of like the perfect catch-all for issues. And if we never get a broken hand, it gives us like a free dagger use.
Mm-hmm.
Just like throw in there for like you reach that last turn where you're like, I'm pretty sure I can kill him this turn. You're like, well, Deep Blue dagger hit for the free extra hit, and if they don't block it, it's gonna make all their other blocks worse.
Mm-hmm.
Like, so I feel like that one's probably the most useful.
That makes sense.
And then probably Snapdragon Scalers next. So the question is, how often would we crack an Ornate Tessin? And would we rather just keep Snapdragon Scalers in the Mage matchup? Or we can have Deep Blue, Snapdragon, and then 2 Null Rune pieces plus the Arcane Lantern. We're probably not cracking Tessin that often, are we?
I don't think so.
Okay, we can do the Arcane Lantern. We'll do that. We'll go with that. We'll do Arcane Lantern wherever it may be. There it is. So then we want Null Rune gloves and hat, I think.
Yep.
So that gets us to 9. So we have 2 slots left.
So we would do 2 Ironhide.
Yes. Man, that's just kind of awkward. Because we kind of wouldn't. Do we even do Ironhide?
Oh, because
we have the blade cuff
right.
and the hat, and both of them have blade break.
Huh.
So do we throw like an Iron Rot in just so that then you'd have 3 blade break and you can block a full attack there, and it costs nothing to do that? And then like you probably wouldn't. I mean, what do we even do with the rest of the sideboard slot? Throw more Null Rune in just in case? We actually kind of are in that weird situation where I think it does just make sense to use Iron Rot for the boots, Iron Rot boots. I don't think we're super likely to bring that in, but
instead of the Snapdragon Scalers.
But I mean, like, we're not going to replace the cuffs or the hat with like Iron Hide.
And I guess we wouldn't replace the chest either.
Probably not. Where is the Iron Rod even?
I guess it's...
Do the boots have a different name? Or was the chest last? Oh, chest was last. Okay. And then that leaves us with 1 slot. So there's a couple of things we could do with this, and it's pretty irrelevant either way, but we could throw in another piece of Null Rune, so that in theory, if we hit a certain mage match, we could have 4 Arcane Barrier, which is kind of gross.
Yeah.
Or we could bring in one of the other chess pieces we debated about. So that it's like, you know, kind of, if it turns out that there's certain matchups where we would prefer a different chess piece, we could have that. Or we bring in the Iron Rot chest and we just decide which one we feel like. Oh, we didn't even look at that, did we?
No.
Next attack action card you play this turn. When this hits a hero,
So that would only affect your stealth cards, though. That's the only reason why I didn't really consider it.
That's not awful, though.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it didn't even... Okay, well, I still think Stubby Hammers is a card you may use because it can, in theory, do more damage than... Like, because this one's just going to tell them to block it.
Right.
That said, that's way better than Blade Cuff. that's way better than Blade Cuff. It has everything that Blade Cuff had.
Yep.
I would take that over the dagger any day. How did I miss that? I even saw it and looked at it and was like, oh, we'll have to look at that. And then I just totally forgot about it.
People in the comments are just like, I can't believe.
Yeah, I can't believe
Oh, now, okay.
Yeah, now everything's...
Redemption.
Yeah. We evened out in the end.
Yeah, I guess just null rune.
Okay, yeah, so I'm thinking we could do like the null rune boots, or we can do a piece of Seekers instead of null rune somewhere.
What does Seekers do again?
So
it blocks for one?
It prevents
And then-
one damage,
and searches?
so it can be any kind of damage, and then it opts one. So
Okay.
for arcane, it'll be like a one-use arcane barrier, because it'll stop just as much as arcane barrier normally would,
Right.
like
so
that
it'd be,
one?
It would be like the
but then it lets us opt.
spell fray, which has...
Yes. Well, the only difference, spell fray is free. But,
Sure, yeah.
But it essentially would be like spell fray, but we're paying one extra to also be able to opt.
Mm-hmm.
So the only reason I thought of this just now is that, like, there might be certain matchups where the amount of arcane damage you take is not too substantial, and which you'd be okay with blocking it once to give you a chance at looking for, setting up your next hand better or something.
This could also be, like, you could use this...
Runeblade? With unspecified damage is...
Well, I was thinking that, but I wasn't going
Okay.
to say that. I was just saying it's more functional where, like, even if you didn't run up against a mage, you could still...
Yeah, you could still use it for other things and be...
Not that you would. You'd use your other better cards.
I think there's a
an
chance
option.
in which you might bring it in if you find that you're losing to things like Briar more. Because it
guess
can
so, yeah.
stop the physical, the arcane, or the unspecified damage.
Yeah.
And you still get to opt out of it. Whereas, like, the mask, if you are using the blade break part, you're not getting the other half of it.
Right.
Whereas Seeker's Hood, you are going to get two halves of it, but you have to pay the one still.
That makes sense.
But I think that's probably the one I would find the easiest. Or I think the only other option is to bring in sideboard stuff that you'll probably never sideboard in.
Right.
Unless no rune boots, which would be great if this wasn't commoner. Because the only reason I would think about bringing in no rune boots is if you're playing against a super high damage aggro mage, that having 4 arcane barrier would be good. Problem is Kano is garbage, and Icelander is not that. So
It's for the future.
okay, yeah. So I think Seeker's Hood. That's where it's good. It's a good thing here. We have a lantern just that's chilling there, unless it happens to be a mage. And then if we want to go full defensive, we can do this like full block of physical. I think we're probably the aggro deck most times though, so I feel like we're not sideboarding heavily against many things.
Yeah.
But I think Seeker's Hood actually would increase my likelihood of sideboarding in some respects. I think against a Runeblade, I would probably bring that in every time. Just because the Mask of Malicious Manifestations benefit is not substantially better.
Right.
But yeah, I guess that's our Uzuri list. With our 24 0 cost cards, 2 1 cost cards, then 14 2 cost cards.
Perfect.
Is that accurate? Do we? Oh, it is. It is. I thought that was weird because I'm like, wait, we have 12 payoff cards, but one of our payoff cards costs 0.
Right. Yep.
What an absolutely outrageous concept that one of our payoff cards costs 0, and we're like, we can cheat this card into play. It costs 0 and has go again, and we're cheating it into play.
I mean, we're cheating to get around its effect.
I both hate and love that. But yeah, and then the only downside with it is we can't pummel off of that. But
Right.
we can razor reflex it.
Sure.
To go again will be irrelevant, but it'll be 3 extra damage. But yeah, I think that's our Uzuri list. I think this deck could actually be really, really good.
I like it.
I think this is solid. I think it might honestly just be at start better than Arachne. The one we built already.
Oh, really? Okay.
I feel like she might actually win that if you put them up against each other. Like she may actually be deserving of a spot in that battle royale, but see how we feel about
There's
that.
still time.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. Maybe replace Arachne with that one. But yeah, so if you like the video or if you feel we did anything with the deck that we could have done better, let us know in the comments below. And otherwise, subscribe for more Commoner-related content.
Bye.